Welcome, guys, to the Ignite Coffee Break podcast. We are here to one more episode. This time, speaking about newcomers and how it is this season when you are new in some place, when you just join a country or a place or a new church, and how is the experience for you. And each one of us was newcomers at some point in your life. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm here with a guy that means a lot for me. He just came to Ignite, has been not so long ago, but quickly he became a really brother for me. So I'm really enjoying this podcast because I have the opportunity to just speak with friends. So I'm really enjoying it. So here I'm with a guy that comes from America. He lived in Korea, South Korea, and now he's here in Belgium. I love his story, his testimony, and his heart. I'm here with AJ. Welcome, bro.
Or not welcome, but thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, bro, to have you here. And I'm really excited to hear you speaking about it because I can see that this topic for you was really interesting how it happens, like all of the sudden, like you start like um, being together and being involved very quick, if I can say. So, yeah. Welcome, bro. And we can start, maybe just walk us through your testimony, a little bit about your story, where you came from, what do you do, how you ended up living in Korea and
Yeah.
now here.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty crazy story. Not like bad crazy, but kind of like whenever the Lord wants you to go somewhere, but you kind of be disobedient. So basically, I grew up in church whenever I was growing up, but then like whenever I graduated high school, it was kind of like I'm free type deal. And so I was like, okay, well then since I'm free, I started getting introduced to the clubs and the partying and all the women and the drinking and drugs and stuff. So then therefore it was like, oh, okay, let me go see what that's about. And I did all that, but then
How old you were at that time?
basically from 18 to yeah, it started at 18 and probably to about like 26, 27.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a pretty long time. Um, and so then eventually, whenever I got here, actually, so last year when I got here, I was in a rough patch in my life, like depression a little bit was coming back, and there was a lot of stuff going on family wise, and I was like, Lord, like, I literally was at the head of my table at my house and was just crying. I was like, Lord, I just need you to take care of everything. I surrender to you. Like, what is it that you need me to do? And I was like, all right, well, Lord, also, if this is going to happen, I just need you to put me in a church. I need you to surround me around a community so that way I can get my life together and get right back with you. So, yeah.
So this was when you arrived here in Belgium.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was last year, honestly, probably around this time, February, like mid-February.
Okay, 1 year.
Yeah.
And how did you get to know like Ignite and how that happened for you?
So I looked on the internet and was like looking for different churches and stuff. And so I had found one and I was like, okay, cool, let me go check it out. But it wasn't really like,
On
I wasn't,
Google.
yeah. Well, I didn't find Ignite on Google,
Okay.
but I had found another church and I went there a couple times, but I didn't like it. So the following day I went to my boss and just told him like, hey, I've been looking for a church and everything. He's like, oh, well, I go to a church that's in Mons. And I was like, yeah, I'm not driving 45 minutes to an hour. Like, I love the Lord, but he knows my heart too. So then from there, he's like, well, there's this church that's here in Brussels that I've watched on YouTube a couple times. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, yeah, it's Ignite Church Brussels. And so I was like, okay. So that's how I discovered Ignite. And so then it's very funny because I ended up watching one of the lives, but then the live got cut short. And so I was so upset. And I was like, man, like I literally just waited for this whole entire time. And now the live just cut short. And so, the enemy was really trying to tell me like, oh, well, maybe this is a sign that you don't need to go to church. And so I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to go to church. But then the Lord was like, nah, just go. So I came that Sunday, and that was in May of last year.
Okay.
And man, when I tell you I walked in the door and I just felt so much peace.
Yeah.
And I just felt the love of God in the place. This is whenever we were in the basically what we now call the overflow room. And
Oh
so,
yeah, was it still there, the service?
yeah. So when we were in there, and I just felt at home, and it just felt so peaceful. So
You
yeah,
remember
man.
the clothes that you wore the first day that you were?
I don't remember the clothes, but I remember a couple people being like, "Yeah, you look like an American."
Yeah, yeah. Was my first. I don't know if it was the day that you. I don't know if it was your first day, but I remember I have this thing in my mind. Like the first day that I saw you,
Mm,
I was like, yeah, this guy's American.
yeah, that's what everybody was saying. They're like, "Yeah, you dress like an American." And in my head, I'm like, "What do Americans dress like?" So I was like,
Like,
"Right." So
okay, that's favorite.
yeah,
And you
man.
know how your boss got to know Ignite? How he started like watching it, or was just out of the sudden he
No, I
found
was
it?
honestly for him. I probably think it was probably he just found it on YouTube,
That's
or
crazy.
I know sometimes like whenever I used to have social media, Ignite probably would like randomly pop up on people's social medias and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I just know Ignite is growing.
that's really a testimony about like live stream,
Yeah,
and that can really like impact someone and reach people.
yeah,
I hope that now that we have a better life, because in that time the live stream was like on our phone, no? It was like the phone of someone that was doing the
yeah.
live stream.
It was on the phone, and I think we had one camera.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Yes. Thanks Jesus for the 4 cameras now
Thanks.
and
Amen.
improving our live stream. That's nice. And after you got to know Ignite at first,
Hmm.
you already knew like, yeah, it's here that I will stay, or you still like went to visit other church or something?
Oh no! After the first time, man, I just stayed. I was like, yeah,
Yeah?
this is home. Cause
That's
like like I said, I grew up in church, but even growing up, like I never felt so much peace and felt at home and felt so much joy. So whenever I came here, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be in an actual like to be in a church and call it your home. I was like, yeah, no, I'm staying here. So I didn't even take the time to let me go check out another church. Nah,
Wow, that's
literally
nice.
that day, I was like, yeah, this is it right here.
That's amazing. The church that you grew up in America,
Mm.
what kind of church was it? Was it more like traditional church or
It was more like a Baptist church,
Baptist?
and then also had a non-denominational church as well that I went to, and I played like like my saxophone and everything in those churches, and did the sound and everything there too. But yeah, it didn't hit like it hit here. But I think it's probably because when I was a kid, I was kind of one of those kids where it's like, oh, I have to go to church because my mom's
Yeah,
going or
yeah.
because my grandmother's going, so
Yeah.
it's a little different.
Same for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because when I arrived at Ignite was more or less the same time, but 1 year before in
Mhm.
2023. And the first service that I had at Ignite, I think I seated close to Melissa.
Mm.
And at that time, I think was with her. She was there, and there was Brian Lau, I think, as well. And it's a guy that manifests in such a like different way.
Yes.
And Melissa at that time as well, she was like laughing a lot
Mhm.
with the gift of laughter. And I remember like looking, I was like, man, this is feel different.
Mhm.
But I really like it. But I think I still gave the doubt.
Yeah.
So I went to see some more 2-3 churches.
Mhm.
But after that, I said, no, I'm just going to stay in that one.
Yeah, it didn't hit the same.
And yeah, I was like, it's different. There's something different. I really like it the way that Pastor Mod was preaching as well.
Mhm.
Something like that. What was like what kind of catch your attention? Like in the first service or something was like the worship, the word, the manifestations, the spirit or
I would say it was a worship.
worship.
I think it was like closer to when the service was ending, and then Pastor Motto just asked the worship team to just go ahead and sing again. And I remember closing my eyes and like lifting my arms out, and it felt like God was just giving me a hug. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like I never had that before, and I literally just broke down crying. And then that's how I was like, okay, yeah, no, like I don't want to experience this at any other church. Nothing against other churches, but it was just like, if God was able to meet me here, then this is a place where I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah,
So therefore, it's like, all right, yeah, I'm staying right here. Like,
that's great.
yeah.
That's amazing, bro. And how was for you like after you started like coming and the reception of people, like
Mm.
starting having friends or starting being involved? How this like started happening for you? How was like, for example, the start point? Like, yeah, I started being involved and having friends and
So,
being more involved.
not trying to be funny, but it is kind of funny. When I got here, I thought everybody was weird for the simple fact that it was like people were just nice.
Oh,
And growing up, I wasn't used to that. So
okay.
I was just like, what do y'all want from me? And
Mm,
like had that like skepticism, like, okay, they're being nice because they want something.
okay.
But then God was like, yeah, no, that's not them. So I started slowly helping out with like breaking down the equipment and everything and taking it upstairs. And then one day,
Yeah, I remember the setup team.
yeah. So Joel was the first person I kind of met at church because he had prayed for me the first day that I got here.
Mm.
So then from there, like just started helping with the breakdown and setup team. And then one day, God was like, I was over on the, like, I guess glass window or whatever. He was just like, yeah, you need to start building your community. And I'm looking at him like, Lord, what do you mean build my community? Like, I don't even know anybody here besides Joel.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, I somewhat talk to everybody that tells me, you dress like an American. So I was like, okay, what does that mean? And so maybe like I want to say 2 weeks um, after church, me and Joel walked over to Asia Bowl, whatever.
Acai bowl?
Yeah, Acai Bowl. Yeah,
Hmm.
over by Grand Place.
Brazilian.
Yeah, it was back in August, and so um, he was like, "Yeah, bro. So these are the people. Da da da." I'm like, "Okay, nice."
So he introduced some people for you.
Yep. And then next thing you know, he's like, "Yeah, I gotta go," and I'm like,
No way.
"You gotta do what?" He's like, "Yeah, I gotta go. Um, you can hang out with these people, and we could just go from there." I'm like, "Hang out with who? I don't even know these people." And so like it was like a large group of people.
That's so Joel to do.
And, facts. And so then I was like, all right, so who, like, should I just leave? And literally, like, I love being here because it's just showing me how much the enemy does not like whenever you're in the community. Because he was like, yeah, no, you should just go home. Like, you don't know those people. You should just go ahead and just separate yourself from them. But then Holy Spirit was like, no, stay. Just watch what happens. So we ended up going to Midi Fair. And from Midi Fair, we were like, we went from Midi Fair, and then everybody was leaving. And then a few people stayed behind, Matthew, Toma, Victor, and Mateos. And we were like, yeah, we're hungry. Like, where should we go eat? And so we went to a place called Lucky Food. It's a nice Chinese buffet. And man, I think it was like 7 o'clock, from 7 o'clock to about 2 o'clock in the morning,
Wow.
we were just talking.
No
And
way.
then whenever the restaurant was closing, they were like looking at us like, are y'all gonna leave? And so we left the restaurant and just went to the parking lot and just continued to talk. And that day I just opened up and I was vulnerable, and it was definitely different for me. From there, they just prayed for me. We talked even more.
In the
And
first day.
Yeah, of hanging out with them. So I was like, yeah, this is definitely out of my comfort zone, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. So that happened, and from there, they just became my community of friends, and we've been going through a million of things. Nothing bad, of course, but like we just been going through a million of things. They've been there for me, I've been there for them, and it's just been a complete 180 in my life since October, or not October, since August. So
So this happened in August
Yeah.
this year.
last year, yep.
Okay,
Yeah, man.
amazing, bro. And it's funny because for me, when I started at Ignite, was as well the setup team that helped me as well. So I think when the setup team like ended up,
Mm-hmm.
they say that was a lost because it was a way of like people starting being at Ignite and
Yeah.
like being introduced, and it's such true because for me as well, I started going there, and it was through one day that Joel as well. He
Mm-hmm.
said like, oh, in the mic, oh, we need the people in the setup team, and I came and started speaking with people. The first one was Christian Pinheiro,
Yeah.
Brazilian, and then he started like introducing me to people as well. And for me, this thing that you say like about vulnerability, it's something that really marked me as well when I arrived at Ignite. And what do you think that made this possible? Like this thing that sometimes is so difficult to have, but like you, the first
Mhm.
day that you're hanging out with them, like you stay till 2 p.m., 2 a.m., like
Mhm.
being vulnerable and having this open thing. What do you think that make this this possible for you to trust and like, yeah, I will open up to someone that gave the example or something like that? Or
Um, I would honestly say like trusting in God's like will and timing, because it didn't feel like it was forced. You know, sometimes people just ask you a whole
yeah.
bunch of questions, and you're like, man, I feel forced, like I have to answer this. But it just felt like I'd known them for a while already,
Yeah.
so it just felt peaceful. It felt calm. It felt honestly good and warm to just talk to them in general. And so everything kind of just played its part. But I would just say, yeah, just trusting in God and His timing, and not try to force, trying to be friends with people as well. Take your time, because everybody doesn't mesh well together. So you also have to find the people that you actually are good with being around too. So yeah, I would just say just trusting in God's timing and just waiting to see what He does.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think this helps us a lot to, I don't know if it for you was the same, but this thing with like being vulnerable and open up with people, it helped me a lot to heal, you know. So I think like being at Ignite, it really showed to me how a community and being surrounded by friends that becomes like family can heal you
Yeah.
so much. Because like this thing that you're saying about like open up and sharing, for me in the beginning when I arrived, when I started like hanging out with people, I was just seeing so many people like just sharing their testimony, just sharing like the stuff that they did, you know, the life that they had, and yeah, I passed through this and this and this and that without no shame. And that for me kind of built the way for me to be able to also be vulnerable and open up with people, you know, like those ones that I was hanging out. And I think that was what I was missing those whole time, because I think I felt like before in my life I was living everything just by myself, you know, like even if I was at church and all, I was like always just keeping for myself. That because I think the environment that I grew up, people kind of didn't allow themselves to be vulnerable, you know, like I failed in this, or I did this, or I lived in that way, like this transparency, you know.
Yeah.
So I think here something that really helps a lot is this transparency between people.
Yeah.
Like the of course you need to be careful, like it's not that you come here in the mic in the Sunday and open up your life, but with people that are like more close, that it's so easy for people to be transparent and share how they're passing, how they are passing through and all. And that brought so much healing for me because I stopped having shame, you know. So I think this is such a key, because in community, when we allow ourselves to go deep in that way and share, man, I did this, I screw up here, like without this really remove all the shame. And I think I carried a lot of shame about my past for a lot of time, you know.
Yeah.
And I think at some point when I just start sharing, like for a while when I was younger, I did drugs and this and this and that. And after I was like, whew, that's good. That feels good. Like just by the fact of being able to open up and all.
No, I would say that is right, because I mean, I thought about it myself whenever I was also trying to build my community, because I was like, ooh, what are they going to think whenever I tell them about what I used to do? Because I know everybody is built different and everybody grows up differently. But I was just like, what if I tell them something and they just look at me like, he used to do that? Like, I can't believe he used to do that. We can't be friends with him. I already know he was American, but dang, he's out here wilding. So yeah, I definitely understand what you mean, bro.
Yeah. I think this is such a great thing that Ignite really do very good work at that, like not judging and accepting, and everyone talks freely about their testimony and all. And speaking about that, like what is something that you think like that through this season at Ignite, it's something that has been redeemed by being the community, or something that was a shift for you, or that you have been blessed, or something that you learned in a way, and now like being at Ignite you saw that like actually in this way was this that Christ wanted, or something that Yeah, Berlin. Did you understand what I asked?
In a way, I do.
I was a bit confused.
Right. It's like in. I would say, if I answer this correctly, I want to say that just taking a chance on things. So whenever I see an opportunity, even if it is against my comfort zone,
Hmm.
just going and doing it, even though I know it would probably make me uncomfortable, but I know that if I go do it, eventually I'll get comfortable with what I'm doing. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, if I know I wouldn't talk to somebody outside of church or whatever, then I'd be like, you know what, let me just go talk to them today.
Hmm.
Or if they say, hey, we need volunteers for this,
Mm-hmm.
I know I probably don't want to do it, but let me go volunteer for it. And then, that allows me to also get to meet other people.
Mm-hmm.
And especially whenever you really don't see a lot of people as well around church, because the church is growing and there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Let's say you don't see them on a daily basis. You could see them at a event that you volunteered for and be like, oh, hey, how are you? I'm such and such. And just get to know them,
Mm-hmm.
because who knows? They could have been at church for maybe a month and they just wanted to volunteer. And now,
True.
by you going and having a conversation with them, they feel welcomed and they don't feel like, oh, okay, I need to seclude myself from anybody or anything. So,
Mm-hmm. So this is something that you would say that Ignite has these opportunities to serve and like a lot of stuff that you can just volunteer and all. And I think this is something nice because
Yep.
like when I arrived as well, I had this mindset in my head because the church that I grew up, you will need to be at church like 1 year
yeah,
to be able to do something, You kind of need to prove yourself.
yeah,
And here, like after, I don't know, 2-3 months that I was at Ignite, they asked to be part of the setup and can I go?
mm-hmm.
And they yeah come. So I think that that's really nice at Ignite. I think there is this really, it's an open space. If you want to help with anything, you can
Yeah.
just volunteer, like, and people helps you, and I really love that. So you think that could be like a key for newcomers, that people that's just arrived at Ignite, that's
Yeah.
listening to us, that they just came and they want to build a little bit more of friendships and people around them. You think that this is the best way to do it?
I would say so. I think the first thing first is, of course, making Ignite your church home. And then after that, then, you get acquainted with the community, because you never want to be like a tiptoeing and being 1 foot in and then 1 foot out and be like, okay, I want to be a part of Ignite, but at the same time, I want to also go be with other things. So just committing and be like, okay, yes, I want to be a part of Ignite now. From there, if there's an opportunity, of course, volunteer for it. And that would definitely, I feel like it'll open up a door
Yeah,
and definitely surround you around the people that God wants you to be around. Because otherwise, I don't think the Lord would allow whoever it is to come to Ignite and experience the community that we have anyways. So, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of really experiencing what we are living here.
Mm-hmm.
Because the service is amazing. Like we have great service,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's way more fun what we do outside.
Yeah, you're not lying.
It's sure like home groups and like here podcasts and the other stuff that we do, like just really life together, right?
Yeah.
Like when I think service is great, like it's great, but there is other 6 days of the week, like what you do,
Yeah.
like you just stay alone or you just stay with friends from work or whatever. And I think for in my life, and I believe it make completely different, like my experience here in Belgium, because of the community that I built as well. Because I remember before, even when I was coming to Ignite, but I was just like coming on the Sundays,
Mm-hmm.
like during the week I was like, okay, so I was hanging out with people from work that mostly was not Christian,
Yeah.
So it's not really edifying for you to stay all the time.
Yeah.
And after when I started like as well building this more friendship, let's do this or that, and start going to the home group, that make it completely different for me and
Yeah.
my experience in Belgium as well. And it's so good to see like how God is faithful with that as well, because I don't know how it was for you, and I really wanted to. I know it's kind of bringing to the first topic, but it's like when I came to Belgium, it was such a fear for me
Mm.
to come to a place where I don't know the language. I had no clue what I'm gonna do there. Like I know nobody there, no friend, no family, no one.
Yeah.
But I remember like one of the first days that I was coming to Ignite, someone prophesied over me that here in Belgium I would find a family,
Mm.
you know? And it's
Amen.
funny because as well someone gave me a mug from when I was living in Brazil. A friend of mine, she gave me a mug that was writing in the something like in the other side of the sea there is a family, there's a house, a family, something like this in the mug. And
Gave
it's
you a
so
prophetic
cool.
mug.
Huh?
Gave you a prophetic
A
mug.
prophetic mug. And it's so cool, like how God can use this to really shape the whole experience of the
Yeah.
person, like the community, the family that you find, the friends that you build. That was really life changing for me. I think if I didn't find Ignite, if I didn't find the family and the friends that I had here,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would come back to Portugal, where I was more comfortable because of the language, because I had some friends there, or even come back to Brazil.
Yeah.
Definitely, because it's really difficult. And I think this is a reality for so many people that comes from Brussels, because Brussels has this thing of like receiving people from everywhere
Mm-hmm.
and all. So how was this for you, like when you arrived and you're like, I know nobody here. I don't know if it was their situation that you didn't know anything
Yeah.
here, anyone, or and how was this for you? Like, it also impacted you in that way, like to find a family in a context of like your experience in Belgium, in living here. Like nowadays, you see yourself staying here more years. How was this for you?
I would say when I first got to Belgium, it was rough, man. Like, one, getting here and all they were doing was speaking French.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, all I know is wee wee. And so then I was like, all right, so how am I going to make this work?
Yeah.
And then whenever I got here, it was like a cultural shock in regards to everything was expensive. And I was like, yo, like, even if I do save my money for some eggs, that's still almost €10, which is relative to $12. And I'm just like, yeah, no. Because I remember my first day being in Belgium, I went to a corner store and I literally just got a protein shake and some juice, and it came out to $30. And I was like, what's in these? He's like, do I get superpowers or something from this? And I was like,
no
yeah,
way,
nah.
really?
I was
It's
like,
expensive than it's more expensive than in America.
yes, way more expensive.
No way.
So I was like, yeah, nah, I don't know how I'm gonna live out here. So it was definitely a culture shock. But yeah, I knew no one whenever I got out here. So it was really just roll the dice and see what happens. So when I got to work, I was hanging around people from work just like you were. But then I started realizing like, not really what I need to be doing. I mean, some people were cool, some people were but I realized, you know what, I think that's whenever I started hitting the plateau of I need to be around a church community. Like, I need to be back in church. So that's whenever, like I said earlier, I cried at the table, cried out to God. I was like, look, if you want me to continue, I need you to put me in a church. I need you to put me in a community to be built up. And so that way I can get back focused on what you're doing. Because when I was in Korea and whenever I used to live in New York too, it was just bad. Like, partying all the time, drinking all the time.
When you were living in Korea and New York at this time, did you would go some from time to time to church or not at all?
No, I definitely didn't. I think when I was in Korea the first time, I went a couple times, but the moment that their pastor left, I left. So it was basically like, okay.
But the pastor left the church at
but
all,
no,
or
not like
just the service?
No, not like a bad thing. Like, he left because like he didn't want to be there anymore, but like he got called to a different area, like to a different place, basically. And so he left, and I was like, sounds good.
So he left the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then since he left, I was like, yeah, I'm gone. I'm not going back.
Okay.
Because for me, he was a good pastor, and I was like, nice.
Was American church or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then from there, I just went back to partying, and I called myself back then a teeter-tottering Christian, which is like whenever I'm down, then I call on the Lord, and like He'll step on it, and then I'll get my
Yeah.
blessings, and then I
Yeah.
go back down, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I don't need you, Lord. Oh,
Mhm.
but then I'm in trouble. Oh, Lord. Psalms 23.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
When you
then
feel like you're almost dying in the
facts.
club, I, then you call God, please don't let me die here.
That, and then be like, Lord, I promise I'll never do it again,
Mhm.
Lord, I promise.
I
And
know.
then I'm right back at it next weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
So yeah, man, it was a bad time. Yeah.
I know. And after like you, like when you came to Ignite, and we had the same experience of like the community and how the community helped us and to integrate, and even with our whole experience in Belgium.
Mm.
And you see that as well, being at Ignite, how has been impacting you, like being this in this atmosphere where there is the prophetic, the faith, and seeing healings and this kind of stuff, was something that you are used to it, or how do you see that this has been impacting you, has changing you, or how was this for you?
If I could be honest, in the best terms, it felt like a movie. Like whenever
Mm.
you like see things on movies or like see things on autobiographies, and you're like, oh wow, that is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it happens in person, you're like, oh, that person just got healed. Oh, nice. And then when somebody comes up to you and tells you, like, prophesies over you, you're like, how you know that?
Yeah.
So just seeing that is like, it's amazing to me, because you're just witnessing how God works and how He uses people. And then for how it's impacted me, I mean, since I've seen that, it just made my faith grow even stronger, because it's like, oh, if they can do it, I want to do it.
Mm.
And so therefore it's like, all right, Lord, what do I need to do? He's like, well, build a relationship with me. Okay, well, never did that before. I mean,
Mhm.
I knew of you, but never had a relationship with you. So therefore it's like, okay, I need to go deeper, and I need to read the Bible more. And I tell you, bro, reading was never my forte at all. So I literally had to pray and like, Lord, make this Bible interesting in some way, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to read this without getting bored. So He started doing that, making it more interesting to me. And then on top of that, like the classes that we have, and just talking and interacting with
How
people.
has been this, like this,
With the
what happened that the Bible started becoming more interesting for you?
oh, so
It was the way that you read it, or
yeah, I don't know if it's because like my mindset is like
Mm.
kind of like with being in the world and then reading it. It kind of just sometimes
Mhm.
it's funny, because like you're reading and you're like, let's see, I'll use Moses for example.
Mhm.
Moses was definitely like, all right, Lord, what do you want me to do? He's like, oh, go free the people from Egypt. And he's like, oh, yeah, not me, because I don't even like talking. And he's like, yeah, but I chose you. He's like, I think you got the wrong person.
Yeah.
And then you're just seeing the interaction. You're just like, he's really out here debating with the Lord.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
And so it's the same thing with Abraham, too. And it was just funny, like just reading it. I'm just like, yeah, that's something I would do. That's something I would go back and forth with the Lord. Like, yeah, Lord, I don't know if you really meant me. So just reading that and making it interesting, so that way like intrigues me to want to keep reading. So yeah.
That's nice, bro. Yeah, for me it was kind of the same as well, because I used to see like some kind of manifestations in the church that I grew up, like praying in tongues and deliverance, this kind of stuff. But with the prophetic, that was very new for me, and it also changed my relationship with God. And I think that it's something related to being the atmosphere, like because when you are in an atmosphere where everyone feel empowered to say something and prophesy and pray for someone and all, I think this is really something precious that we have here at Ignite, that really, I don't know, boost us. Like it's really like a, I don't know where I heard that. I think some preachings, some Sundays ago, someone preached that about Saul, when he sent some guys to speak with the prophet, and when the guys arrived there, they start prophesying as well. And then he sent more, and when they arrived there, they start prophesying. And when Saul came, he started prophesying as well. So I think there is really this thing at Ignite, because after I at Ignite, and when I saw people like sharing their testimony in a way to evangelize people,
Mm.
was one of the first things that I started doing at Ignite, that I should do more again, evangelism. And I remember I've seen like people, the way they're using their story, like to just, yeah, like this is my testimony, and was so encouraged to do the same. So I think this is really precious, this thing, when the impact that has the community that you are in. Like if you are in a community that um, doesn't value the prophetic, or doesn't value the healing, praying for people, you just got stuck. Like was definitely my life for many years, because you don't have someone that you can see, oh yeah, this is possible, or this can happen, or let me do that too. So yeah, I think definitely that was something really great for me as well from Ignite. And how this how this for you like changed what you see that's essential in a community, for example, nowadays, like when you think about, yeah, that there is this thing at Ignite or in this community that's important for me,
Mm.
that's a value that I think that's essential to have in a community.
Mm. I would just, with a blatant answer, I guess I would just say community in general is just very important, because, like, I have it on my phone, but Matthew 8:18-20 says, "For where two or three gather together as my followers, I am there among them." For me, it just means you can't do it by yourself. Like, I don't feel like God created us and put us on this earth to be like, yeah, just go through life by
100%.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe community is just a big deal. So
Mm-hmm.
he definitely blesses you with the right people that you need to be around. And from there, that's whenever you start growing as an individual as well. And you go from being codependent on people to just having independency within yourself, but then also relying on God at the same time. So it just, the flow of everything will just change in your life. So honestly, I would just say community is the number one thing that
Yeah.
Ignite provides, and just is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's completely like aligned with what Jesus started doing, right? Because if we stop to see like he started building this community, like he got 12 here, but we know that there are so much more that would gather with them and walk with them. And it's crazy because if we see Jesus, he didn't build like a church, like like a name, like a building or something. That was never about a building or about like being in a place every Sunday. It was about them being together, doing life together, like preaching the gospel, doing the will of God together. So yeah, I think this is really like in God's heart, this community part, and being together, living the stuff together, like in the simple stuffs. Nowadays, it's what I see, is that community and being together, like you just read, being together, it's in the simple stuffs, like daily base life things, that you start like building these and being together and helping each other. And I think I would say as well, for those that are just join a community, if Ignite or another one, something that really helped, and really helped me, not just here in Belgium, but as well in Lisbon when I was living in Portugal, was the home groups. The home groups like made such a difference. Yeah, because like you have this chance of really being together and in a small set, where you feel more safe to share, you feel more safe to be yourself, you feel more safe. And it really made a change for me as well. I remember when I just started like going a home group in Lisbon, and just like this feeling of like being surrounded by people and then praying for each other. If there is something wrong, let's pray for it. I would see like people coming in the night and, yeah guys, I have this exam next week, I'm feeling very stressful about that. And in my mind, that someone that never lived that before was like, why are you saying this for everyone? Like, what do you want with that? And then everyone would stand and let's pray for that. You're gonna feel confident. And in the other week, there the home group was like weekly. So in the other week, the person will come and say, "Yeah, guys, the exam was very nice. So I took a good note and all." So I started like seeing the difference that made the home group as well. And I don't know if that was the same for you, but I would recommend for those that's starting to find a home group as soon as possible, because it makes completely difference. Nowadays, when I see someone that's coming and it's new at Ignite, the first thing that I say is find a home group. Find a home group, because it's really a place where you can grow in that and build more this, like being close together.
Yeah, no, shout out Lordion, because definitely if she would have never put me onto y'all home group, then I don't think I'd be as vulnerable as I am now, because I remember going to home group and I was like, I had no one in here. So then I was like, well, I'll just, I'll stay in the background and not say anything. But eventually, after going a couple times, I became more and more vulnerable. And I remember one week, you had asked, okay, guys, from a scale of 1 to 10, how was your week? And I remember before then, like, I think that was the same day I texted you and I was like, hey, bro, does the home group start at 7:30? And you're like, no, it started at 7. And I was like, oh, dang, I'm late. So I got there and I was like, I was already having a rough week already. So I got there, I sat down. I was like, I'm just going to stay quiet this home group because I really don't even want to be here. The next thing, you're asking to sit. And then I sat down and I was just in my head, like, as people were going, I was in my head, like, yeah, I'm just going to lie and be like, yeah, I'm on an 8.5. I'm on a 9. And then next thing you know, we get to me and like the Holy Spirit is like, just let it go. I was like, let it go. I don't even know these people. I'm about to start crying like a little kid that just lost his best friend. And so then I literally just broke down. And I remember all of you just welcoming me and was just like, bro, it's okay. Like, we're here for you. And so when that vulnerability opened, it allowed me to truly be able to trust everyone at the same time. Because I feel like sometimes as people, as human beings, we feel like if we're vulnerable and we let people in, that they may take that information and use it against us. But here at Ignite, like, we don't do that. You tell us, we pray for you, and then we just check on you after that to make sure that, things are going better. And if it's not, we're just going to continue to pray for you until change starts happening. So, yeah, I would say home groups, whoever is listening, if you're new here, I would say try to find a home group automatically. But yeah, man, I would say home groups is definitely a blessing because it's another community outside the church. So it's just like, okay, I have church community, but then I have home group community, and then you have your own community that God might have blessed you with your own set of friends within the church. So it's just all round circle of just, oh yeah, community.
Amazing.
So
Amazing, bro. And if you would like just, as we are finishing, give some kind of tip or something else to people right after they started, or for them being vulnerable, as you're saying that this was a blessing for you, like being vulnerable with people and all that you have been learning throughout this experience at Ignite. There is something that something else that we didn't speak that you would like to say to people, or those that just came to Ignite. I'm sure like a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, it's new because we have so much new people at Ignite. All Sundays has like new people. So there is something else that you would just share with them. And
I would honestly just say, if you're new to Ignite, then don't be afraid to get out there and start introducing yourself to people. Because in the beginning, for myself, I definitely thought, okay, let me just stay by myself and just go to church and do the bare minimum. But you may think that for yourself, but God will end up moving and making a way for you to end up getting a group of friends and getting the right community. And I would say, honestly, just pray about it, because God's always going to answer prayers, especially whenever it comes to his children. So if you want to have community and you want to make friends, you want to build your own church family, he'll make that way. So just ask for discernment and wisdom, and he'll definitely give that to you. So don't be afraid, and just surrender everything to God, and everything else will fall suit.
amazing, bro. I agree 100%. I think it's it's what I would say as well. If I could add, it's don't be afraid of your past as well. Don't be afraid of like what happened, because I think a lot of people, they came from, like we shared, from this background of like a church where people would judge you or shame you or something. So I would really encourage, be don't be afraid of like being transparent or sharing if you need something, if you're struggling with something, like asking someone to pray for you, asking someone to help you, to walk you through something. I think here we don't have a lot of elders at Ignite.
Facts, all young people.
But we do have people with a lot of experience, people that pass through a lot of stuff. So I think we can find someone to help in any matter. I think at Ignite, even though we don't have much elders. So yeah, just share like what do you need, or if you need something, don't be afraid of speaking out and just asking help. So bro, thank you so much for this podcast and for being here with us in this episode.